Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay informed with quick, easy-to-listen summaries of our latest articles, perfect for when you're on the go. No reading required. Subscribe for free at mercola.com for the latest health insights.
Did you know that more than 1 in 4 rice products on U.S. shelves would flunk the FDA's own infant cereal safety test for arsenic? Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan Foster, and today we're confronting the hidden toxic metals in the rice you and your family may be eating every single day.
I'm Alara Sky. The numbers come from Healthy Babies' Bright Futures, which analyzed 211 samples of rice and other grains. Their lab work uncovered arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury in nearly every rice tested. Arsenic topped the list, averaging 84.8 parts per billion, with some samples exceeding infant limits by a startling margin.
The study makes one fact unmissable. Your risk is determined by the rice you choose. Brown rice grown in the southeastern United States carried the heaviest burden, up to 151 parts per billion total heavy metals, whereas white sushi rice from California had less than half that amount, and select imports tested even cleaner.
Those imports include Indian basmati and Thai jasmine. They consistently rank lowest for arsenic and cadmium, yet they can cost 5 times more per serving than commodity U.S. rice. That price gap means many families default to the cheapest bag, unaware they might be buying the most contaminated option in the aisle.
Moving beyond rice altogether is another way to cut exposure. The same investigation found grains like barley, farro, and quinoa contain, on average, 28 times less arsenic. Rotating these alternatives into your week not only diversifies nutrients, it slashes cumulative heavy metal intake without forcing you to abandon familiar meals.
Still, most households rely on rice, so cooking technique becomes critical. Soak your rice for at least 30 minutes, overnight if time allows. Then boil it in 6 to 10 parts water, draining the excess like pasta. Lab tests show this removes up to 60% of arsenic, and the longer soak boosts the effect further.
Combine technique, grain rotation, and lower risk varieties, and you achieve a remarkable 69% reduction in heavy metal exposure, all without special equipment. That's the power of simple habits. No supplements, no exotic gadgets, just informed choices you control in your kitchen.
Controlling matters most for the youngest among us. Children under 2 in Asian American and Latino households eat much more rice than the general population, so their arsenic intake is 2 to 4 times higher. Early life exposure is linked to reduced IQ, slower neurodevelopment, and a higher lifetime risk of kidney disease and cancers.
Pregnant listeners also need clear answers. Arsenic and cadmium cross the placenta, meaning exposure starts before birth. Even low chronic doses during gestation are associated with learning difficulties and immune dysregulation later on. Protecting your baby's brain truly begins with scrutinizing your staple foods.
Cadmium itself appeared in all but one sample. It accumulates stubbornly in kidneys and bones, and when partnered with arsenic, the toxic effects multiply. The reality is that you're rarely exposed to just one metal. The cocktail works silently over decades unless you take decisive action.
Processed convenience rice doesn't provide a shortcut. Instant and parboiled grains undergo high heat processing that can convert arsenic into its more toxic inorganic form, and ready-to-heat pouches often leach additional chemicals during storage. Lower numbers on the nutrition panel don't erase what high temperature and plastic introduce.
Homemade cereal isn't automatically better. Many parents grind brown rice, assuming freshness equals safety. Yet tests show the resulting porridge regularly exceeds the same arsenic limit the FDA applies to commercial baby food. If the raw rice is dirty, turning it into powder just concentrates the problem.
Astonishingly, the FDA's 100 parts per billion standard applies only to infant cereal. Regular rice, eaten by children, pregnant women, and everyone else, falls outside enforceable limits. Researchers and consumer advocates are demanding broader standards, transparent labeling of growing regions, and mandatory public reporting of test results so you aren't purchasing blind.
Right now, most packages simply say, "Product of USA," masking critical information. Because contamination is tied to soil history, water quality, and industrial runoff, where rice is grown is the single most reliable predictor of heavy metals. Without that detail, you could pick up the worst option while thinking you bought the safest.
Nutrition myths complicate decisions further. Brown rice keeps its bran, which holds more vitamins but also concentrates arsenic and linoleic acid. Linoleic acid disrupts mitochondrial energy production and fuels inflammation. If you're already managing gut issues or metabolic stress, the supposedly healthier brown rice can actually work against you.
White rice strips away that bran, leaving a clean starch that's easier to digest, less inflammatory, and far lower in heavy metals. Choose Indian basmati, Thai jasmine, or California white, soak and boil drain. And you've eliminated most of the concerns without sacrificing the dishes you love.
Remember to balance every serving. Pair rice with quality protein, healthy fats, and a spectrum of vegetables. The rice becomes a vehicle for nutrients rather than a solitary mound of carbohydrates, supporting steady blood sugar and satiety while limiting how much arsenic you accumulate per meal.
For infants and toddlers, skip brown rice cereals entirely. Breast milk remains the gold standard. When breastfeeding isn't possible, Dr. Mercola recommends a homemade formula built on raw grass-fed cow's milk, organic cream, and grass-fed beef gelatin, or a hypoallergenic meat-based alternative for little ones who can't tolerate dairy proteins.
Let's tie it together. The research shows you can act right now. Pick lower-risk white rice, soak, boil, and drain. Rotate in other grains, read the package for origin clues, and limit processed rice products. Small, consistent changes compound into healthier kidneys, sharper cognition, and a reduced toxic load.
Quick rinsing under the tap feels intuitive, yet the data show it barely nudges arsenic levels. It's the long soak plus excess water boil that matters. Give your rice the time to release toxins into the water and then pour that water down the drain where it belongs.
Regulators could simplify this with a certified infant-safe label for rice that meets tighter limits for arsenic and cadmium across every serving, not just baby cereal. Public testing and transparent certificates would let you choose with confidence instead of combing ingredient lines for vague country of origin codes.
Until those standards exist, think of cost versus safety as a dial you control. If premium jasmine feels out of reach, combine a half cup of it with a less expensive grain, or stretch servings with nutrient-dense sides. The cooking method is still free, and the risk reduction remains dramatic.
Lead and mercury turned up in smaller amounts during testing, reminding us that rice can carry a whole portfolio of metals. Each may sit below regulatory thresholds alone, yet together they chip away at your mitochondria, cognition, and kidney reserve year after year. Multiplying small improvements pays off exponentially.
Your challenge is simple. Sometime this week, take 1 cup of rice from your pantry, identify its origin, soak it overnight, cook it in extra water, drain it thoroughly, and taste the result. You'll prove to yourself that safer preparation is effortless, and that protecting your family starts with a single pot.
Thank you for watching Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.